Welcome back. And yes, we're now starting on the roller coaster. I've cut all of my pieces, so I have my little ladders here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little nippies here and I'm going to nip off the bottom rung on the ladder, and that will allow me enough space to sink this in to secure it. Now, the question was what to secure it with. I didn't want to use regular glue because white glue wouldn't do any good. It's plastic going into Homosote. And at the same time, I didn't want to use something like Duco cement because I'd be high in about 20 minutes. So instead, I'm going to use my good old hot glue gun. Hot glue holds the world together. Now, how do I know how big to make each one of these pieces that's going to fit in here? Well, I have on my iPad the blueprint of the Mountain Flyer, the roller coaster, when it was built, Mountain Wildcat. So I know the exact height of every single bent, vertical structure along the entire path of the ride. So all I have to do is take that, divide it by 16, because I'm at 1/16 of an inch scale, and then I'll know how many inches I am off of the table. Now, remember that this began at 14 feet. So I'm just going to use 14 feet as 0, the base, and I'm just going to deduct 14 feet from every single bent on this entire ride, so that will give me the actual height. So on this, the height of the roller coaster is listed as 76.6 feet. Because 14 feet is the bottom of the coaster, that means the coaster was actually 62.5 feet high. That was the tallest the lift hill was. So, let's get started. All right, so I've cut my piece, my little H here, and that's going to go, this is the lowest one. This one and this one are both at 14 feet. This one here is at 14 foot 1 inch, which will be negligible. So to secure it in place, I'm just going to take my little glue gun and squirt a little hot glue right in there. And squirt a little hot glue into that hole, and then I'll just push it right in. And that sucker is in. Good. Now I just keep nipping away like that. I'll nip away at this one, if I can get my hand around it there. And then cut it the same way, like this, and like that. And then I've got a little file here just to file down the rough spot. And then open this up a little more. And fit it, make sure it fits the same way. Yeah, that's pretty good. And go ahead and squirt a little hot glue and a little hot glue. And slide it in. And the coaster has begun. So, after about an hour's worth of work, here's what we got so far. So the station's done, and we're moving back. I'm starting on the east side of the coaster. I'm going to follow that all the way around and then come back for the lift hill. It'll be easier to reach when all this is done by sitting on this side. So there we have it, coming along slowly but surely. All right, so after about 4 hours of work, this is what I got so far. We got the station and the turn going up to the lift, the brake run, this will be covered eventually, and then we got the return hills coming back up to here. And I've got 2 more hills to put in here, and then up to the turnaround. And I should be able to finish the turnaround area today, and then be able to do the out section tomorrow. And there is the turnaround complete. It's now evening, and I'm going to wrap it up for the night, but I should be able to finish this off tomorrow a lot quicker than I thought it was. These little ladders are wonderful. They're working out really well. And I still have quite a few left over here of the ones that are painted. And my other shipment over here just came in. So I've got plenty for the ride. But these are not painted, and it's supposed to be raining for the next 3 days. So I don't know when I'll get to paint them again. So if it's a nice day, at some point I'll get out there and paint the rest. But for now, this is coming along quite well. All right, so it's the next day, and I'm continuing work on the coaster, and I flattened this hill out a bit. What I noticed is when I made it, I followed the blueprint, and it turned out the profile in the blueprint actually had a bigger hill coming up here. It went up and then came down a little more severely. But I noticed in the photos I had taken of the park, this was more flat. It's about the way it is now, although it could have been a little flatter along here. And I think they did that at the park to reduce maintenance on this killer curve here, which built up an enormous amount of speed, and this section had to be rebuilt every single year because of the stress on the wood. So with a higher hill, it would have had more stress, so by lowering that hill a bit, it would have helped. So I'm on this side now, working on the stretch coming down, and I'm just going up to the 3rd hill. And so let's keep going on that. Generally, I'm going up in increments of 1 rail here, 1 rung. I thought I had figured out a really nifty way to quickly calculate the height in scale, because each space between the rungs here is a 1/4 inch, which would equal 4 feet. And so I began sizing it just off the cuff, saying, oh, 4, 8, 16. Shows you how well I can count. 4, 8, 12, 16. But I forgot I had to take into account the 1/16 of an inch for the rail, which added essentially another foot. So I was always coming out too high. So instead, I just went back to using my ruler. It gave me a more precise way to gauge how high in scale this was. So I'm going to add, I got 3 rails here, so I'm going to add a 4th. So right there. And I keep all these little pieces. Well, this one I can't do anything with because I'd have to cut off one of those and that wouldn't work. But generally I try to keep all the pieces I can. And try not to drop them. Arrgh. Okay. And then let's cut off the bottom here. And then I file down the leftover nubs that are there. And it looks like I might just have enough of the original ladders to finish the coaster, but just in case, I took the new order that I got in and I took it outside and spray painted it so it's drying out there, just in case I need more. So I just dig into the homosote, nice little trough there, wide enough to fit. And I pop it in, and that's good. And I take my hot glue getting tricky now to get in there with the hot glue gun. And there we have it, another piece done. And you notice these have a textured side and a flat side, so because they were 3D printed. So I tried to keep the orientation the same. I screwed up on just one of these bents, and I'll challenge you to find that. But I started off in this way all the way around so that it's fairly consistent. Okay, as you can see, it's coming along. I've got everything done except a little speed bump here, and then the lift hill, and then the coaster's finished, and it's lunchtime. So I think, but by supper time, the coaster will be finished, way ahead of what I thought was going to be my schedule. So this is good. And there's the lift hill, right where it should be. The coaster's complete, well before supper time. That's good. I did a little reprofiling of this section again and made it much more like it was in 1980. So you can see it's much flatter on top. So that worked out well. The hills here are a little bit spiky. The original had a much more parabolic hill, much more, shallow curve on there. These have a bit of a spike to them. But I thought I was doing it right, and if I pulled them out and redid them, they might end up the same way again, and I just wrecked the table, so I'm going to leave them. They're not too bad. And lift hill is pretty good. There's a little sag right here, but other than that, it's okay. Now, that's not the end of the roller coaster, because there's a lot more work to be done. I've got to put in all of the side bracing around here and all of the supports that came down on an angle around the back. And there are supports that were along here. There are supports that were along here and there. So I've got a lot more work to do before this is complete. But most of that work I'll do at the park. I just want the look of the coaster to be there for now. And as far as the handrails, which were red, it gives a little definition. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that yet. I may just use wire and paint it red. The track's the same way. I want to put track in here to help define the hills a little more so you can see them more clearly. But I'm not sure how I'm going to do that either right now. But for now, it's all set and looking good. So the next thing that I'm going to be tackling are more buildings.